Hello and welcome to Capitol Hill. I'm Lyndall Curtis. An offensive fundraiser menu, abortion laws, even blue ties. It has been, by any measure, one of the more unusual days in the national political debate. The comments about the Prime Minister's body shape on a menu have been roundly condemned, although the opposition leader he says he won't rescind the pre-selection of the man who held the fundraiser, former Howard Government Minister, now Coalition candidate Mal Brough. The Prime Minister fired the first salvo in the latest battle over gender last night, warning that abortion could again become the political plaything of men and women banished from the centre of political life under an Abbott government. And she poked fun at Mr Abbott's daily fashion choice of a blue tie, saying under the coalition, the Prime Minister, a man in a blue tie, would go on holidays to be replaced by a man in a blue tie. Joining me to discuss the day are Labor MP Ed Husic and Liberal MP Don Randall. Welcome to you both.
Yeah, good afternoon, Lyndall. Hi, Ed.
We'll start with you, Ed. I've noticed you're still wearing a blue tie. You said this morning you were going to give it a farewell tour. How long's the tour going to last?
Well, I wasn't going to change it. And the other thing is too, we're in state of origin season, and there ain't any chance you're going to see me in anything other than blue, especially given the great win we had last week.
Now, Kevin Rudd was resplendent in a pale blue tie today. He's a Queenslander. The same couldn't apply to him, could it?
Yeah, well, you know, he's just recognising the strength of our performance last week. But at any rate, I class myself as fashion impaired. I'm sorry to see the blue ties have to go.
We might move on now to that fundraiser menu. It was for a fundraiser held in March by Mal Brough, and the menu referred to Julia Gillard Kentucky Fried Quail, small breasts, huge thighs and a big red box. Here's some of the reaction to that.
Well, I mean, this is Tony Abbott's Liberals. This is what they're like. Mr Brough should be disendorsed. That's what should happen here. A pattern of behaviour, just time after time after time. And Mr Abbott's solution to this pattern of behaviour is not to show any leadership, but is effectively stood by Mr Brough.
I condemn it all, and I think all of us should be better than that, and I think we should all rise above that kind of tawdriness.
Is this really the biggest issue in Australia today? Really? Is this the biggest issue? I mean, it's awful behaviour. Whatever was printed at that event or distributed at that event is wrong. I don't recall having seen it, but seriously, is this the biggest event in Australia today?
Don, is the language used in that fundraiser menu ever acceptable, but particularly unacceptable about a Prime Minister?
Well, look, Lyndall, it's not acceptable, and let me just say any of that sort of boorish pub talk type language isn't appropriate for any of our Prime Ministers, dare I say. But I agree with Joe Hockey. Out of all the things that are going on in the nation today, if this is dominating the national airwaves, we've got our priorities wrong. We've got, as we said, people in Ford losing their jobs, we've got the economy taking a dive, and we've got asylum seekers drowning at sea. And we're talking about a tawdry menu. It was wrong, it shouldn't happen. I don't sanction it in any way, but at the end of the day, let's get onto the issues that are really important to all Australians.
Should Mal Brough's pre-selection be under threat because of it?
Well, if it is, well, do you really want us to trawl through, you know, Labor members and senators that have said things within our earshot over a period of time, you know? I'm aware of a Western Australian senator who judged a wet T-shirt competition last year up the north here. Didn't get much of a run, you know. It's got to apply equally. I'm just saying, when you start this sort of game of this sexist agenda that the Prime Minister's now hitched a wagon to, who knows where it ends up. Now, you know, all those sorts of things shouldn't be done by members of the Australian Federal Parliament, but let's put it in perspective. You know, there are a lot of other things going on in Australia today that people in the street stop me about and want me to do something about, and it's not this issue.
Ed, there is fault on both sides because people on both sides of the political spectrum use language that people would find offensive and do find offensive.
Well, I mean, I think the issue is that Mal Brough isn't a first-time candidate. He's been a former minister. He should be in a position to make judgment calls about what appears, you know, under his name, effectively. I mean, this is a fundraiser designed to support him, and this is a man who no doubt would have ambitions to be a senior minister in any government should they win the election in September. So it does bring into question his judgment, allowing this type of document to be circulated, this menu to be circulated. I mean, it's not funny, it's offensive. And this is from someone who's been in a position of political responsibility previously, and the best we're going to get is a slap on the wrist. I mean, I just think that it's not good enough for the Liberal Party to stand by this person, and as the Prime Minister's indicated, it does reflect an endorsement in effect of what he's done by standing by him.
We don't know yet.
Can I say, yeah.
Sorry, Don.
Lyndall, can I say two things there? To me, it's remarkably coincidental that this issue, as wrong as it is, happened months ago, and it should just suddenly have, been released into the media today to coincide with this Women for Gillard program last night, where she started the sexist debate again and the misogyny.
But the Prime Minister denies that certainly her office had anything to do with it.
Well, I think this looks like it's got Mr McTiern's fingerprints all over him. We saw what happened on the Australia Day rights. These sort of things filter through the Prime Minister's office. Her strategists then say, "Oh, this would time well if it was released today."
But you've got no evidence for that, though, do you?
I'm just going to say to you. Well, I was just going to make the point when you're sitting on the. Well, I was just going to make the point, when you're sitting on the limb, don't saw. I mean, I just think that is I mean, Don has rightly said this is not right. It's an offensive thing to have. I think that is the point that it needs to be made here. It's simply offensive.
And I agree with you.
And to be honest, I wouldn't. But the thing is, Don, too, I wouldn't. As much as I had deep feelings about Prime Minister Howard and the things that he said and did, I would never dishonour the office in that way, and I just think it's wrong.
We might move on now to the Prime Minister's speech last night, where she did raise the issue of gender in a speech to a group called Women for Gillard. We'll have a little listen to that.
Imagine it, a Prime Minister, a man with a blue tie, who goes on holidays to be replaced by a man in a blue tie. Women once again banished from the centre of Australia's political life. We don't want to live in an Australia where abortion again becomes the political plaything of men who think they know better.
If elected, would you contemplate any changes to abortion laws?
The short answer is no.
Ed, you've said you're not comfortable with the issue of abortion re-entering the political fray. Why not?
Well, I just think that that this is a debate that is exceptionally divisive. I think that it is a conversation that I think arouses very deep feelings in people, and I just and I've sort of copped it today on Twitter and elsewhere in terms of expressing my views on it. I'm not comfortable with it being there, and I don't think it is a debate that we should be having. I stand by the comments I said earlier today.
Don, one of the potential issues could be if the coalition needs the vote of DLP Senator John Madigan if it wins government. He's opposed to abortion. Is it possible to rule out doing a deal with him, as John Howard did with Brian Harradine, on banning the abortion drug RU486 and a ban on aid money being spent on family planning and abortion?
I think, we're all ahead of the game. We've got to actually win the election, and we've actually got to do our best to get control of the Senate in our own right. So talking about Senator Madigan's a bit early, but Lyndall, can I just say, this whole thing is about Julia Gillard's leadership's in trouble. She's in trouble with her own party. She's got Kevin Rudd chasing her, and the strategy is, if in doubt, break glass and press the misogyny, the sexism, the abortion button, anything that would distract you away from her problems. Try and reinvent the debate back onto Tony Abbott. And this is just another example of Julia Gillard trying to deflect attention from her failed leadership. We're in the dying days of this terrible government, and this is the strategy that she's using. No, this abortion is a conscience issue, and I can tell you, if it comes to the Parliament again, it'll be a conscience issue again. And we have many in our party who, like Julie Bishop, who voted in the same fashion as Julia Gillard would have done on this, and then we had others, but Catholics from the Labor Party side, who had a different point of view. Don't try and fit us up, on a sexist debate just because you've got no other policy to run with Julia Gillard.
Ed, the Prime Minister also talked about women being banished from the centre of Australian political life under the coalition, but in the Labor Party, senior positions, the deputy leadership and the Senate leadership, is still held by men. Labor's never had a woman in the Treasury role in either government or opposition, and some of your policies have hurt women, particularly single women, haven't they?
Well, I think there are some very strong ministers, female ministers that are on the government benches. I mean, you look at people like Penny Wong, you look at people like Tanya Plibersek, you look at people like Jenny Macklin. There's Minister Julie Collins, Minister Catherine King. I mean, these are all very strong performers in our government, and I think it is something that's definitely worth celebrating and is more reflective of where Australian society is at. Though there'll be a lot of people say that we've got heaps of room to improve.
Don, it is the case, isn't it, on your front bench you have fewer women on there and fewer women in senior positions?
Yes, because they get there by merit. They don't get there because of a quota. But can I just point out, Lyndall, Julia Gillard, if she's to be consistent, she needs to actually talk about people like Mary Ann Thomas in Batman. Here she is backing in a factional boss like David Feeney over a woman in a safe Labor seat. The issue here is she's duplicitous when it comes to women's issues. We talk about the single parenting payments, and she's cut that money to people like the single mums. So you can't have it both ways. You can't be out there on one hand sort of pretending you care about women's issues and then cut off decent women wanting to enter Parliament and struggling mothers on pensions.
But are you saying on the coalition side that the women aren't simply good enough yet to be there in equal numbers or more numbers?
Well, look, we've got a lot of women that are pre-selected as candidates for this up-and-coming election, and if the polls are any guide, we'll have a lot more women in Parliament, I can assure you. So let's not just, as I said, get ahead of the game. And when those ladies come to the Parliament, I'm sure that we will be making sure that the talent rises to the top. We've got a marvellous lot of ladies just behind us on the backbench now that are in their first term that'll be coming forward, I'd imagine, should we be the government in their second term.
Ed, the Prime Minister's speech last night was about gender and what she sees as the risks of an Abbott government. She made an announcement this morning in Western Australia about further moves to get WA to sign up to the Gonski reforms. Did she risk overshadowing her own education policy with her own speech on gender?
No, I don't think so. I think in terms of the breadth of political debate in this country, there are a number of issues that get debated concurrently at any given point in time. I think the school reforms that we're doing, albeit the NBN rollout that we're doing, albeit the stuff that we're doing with disability care, I mean, these are all things that are being debated and actively followed up as we speak. And Don, if I can correct you, I think what you're referring to is our policy on affirmative action in relation to the selection of candidates. But the ministers that we have that are on the front bench they're on merit and are performing very strongly.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, we're about to run out of time, but thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for joining Capitol Hill today. Please be with us at the same time tomorrow. Good night.